Ambassador, to what do I owe the honor? The Terran envoy, a man with pale skin and almond-shaped eyes indicative of a region on Earth known as Japan, asked with a slight respectful bow over the video feed. His tanned face, full of expressive nuances, was a stark contrast to the calm scaled visage of the Keenan representative. At first, the exaggerated human expressions had perplexed Ambassador P, but over time he had come to find them almost elegant. The Terran were a curious species, open, gregarious, even disarmingly friendly traits that initially unsettled the more reserved Kenyan race. Yet it was this very openness that made them far easier to negotiate with than many other Confederation members, especially in trade matters. But then there was the war. The humans, once provoked, had unleashed a fury that became the centerpiece of Kenyan propaganda, a warning to all who might underestimate the Terran resolve. Now, after a series of crushing victories, the alliance of races known as the Panin had all but collapsed. Only a single race, the Pinnon, remained defiant. "I bring momentous news," Kerr announced, his tail flicking in anticipation as he observed the Terran ambassador's face harden. "The Panin have offered to surrender. We would like to invite you to the negotiations to discuss terms." Ambassador Nobunaga's face, once so animated, grew eerily still. "Are there conditions?" he asked, his voice flat. "Unconditional," P replied, somewhat uncertain. "Then we're not finished with them yet," Naga responded, his tone colder than the vacuum of space. "But we can negotiate," P began, only to be cut off by a raised hand. "Negotiate all you like, but we are not done with them until they offer true unconditional surrender. They attacked our homes, slaughtered our children. Terran policy is clear, we do not negotiate with those who strike first. A surrender to you means nothing to us." Nobunaga's smile returned, but it was devoid of warmth. "But please, proceed with your negotiations." With that, Nobunaga ended the transmission, leaving P hissing in frustration. "I warned the Panin this wouldn't work," he muttered to himself. "Their only options now are extinction or total surrender." Yet even as he spoke, a thought struck him: perhaps having these human warriors as allies could shift the galactic balance of power decisively in our favor. Yes, this could work out if we play it right. 2 months later, the Panin Empire, a once mighty force that had subjugated over 20 species, was crumbling. Their core systems, consisting of 3 star systems with 9 worlds each, were the industrial and spiritual heart of their civilization. But one by one, these worlds fell, either bombarded into oblivion or strangled by Terran blockades. The Panin had underestimated the Confederation and, more fatally, they had misunderstood their newest member. The Terran were a force unlike any they had encountered, a force that had no interest in conquest, only in retribution. The Panin tried to bargain, offering terms of surrender to anyone who would listen, but the Terran were unwavering. "Unconditional surrender," they would reply before cutting the transmission. It was a desperate, losing game for the Panin, and now their core worlds were being systematically dismantled. Major cities had been glassed, sea lanes mined, and energy supplies obliterated. The Panin were being driven back to the brink of prehistory, reduced to hunter-gatherers on worlds that once boasted the pinnacle of technological advancement. Still, they fought on, clinging to the belief that if they held out long enough, the Terran might tire. But the Terran did not tire. Within 4 more months, the Confederation itself was pleading with their human allies to show mercy. By then, only 3 Panin worlds remained, including their home world. It was at this point that Ambassador Naga personally attended a Confederation meeting, where the shattered Panin ambassador appeared on screen. His once proud scales were cracked, his demeanor one of utter despair. "If we surrender unconditionally," the Panin ambassador pleaded, his voice trembling, "what will you do with us?" The entire Confederation leaned in, their collective breath held as they awaited Nobunaga's response. "I will tell you what we will not do," the Tan began, his tone steely. "We will not enslave your people. We will not destroy your religions. We will not occupy your worlds, nor will we slaughter what remains of your kind. You can even keep your government." Nobunaga paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. It wasn't a list of terms, it was a declaration of mercy, more than the Panin had any right to expect. The great hall filled with murmurs of relief as the other Confederation members digested this unexpected leniency. "Then we surrender unconditionally," the Panin ambassador whispered, collapsing to his knees, a gesture unfamiliar to his people but one that resonated deeply with the Terran and their allies. "Then we have peace," Naga declared. But the peace came with a price. The Panin would be prohibited from space travel for a century. Their remaining worlds would be converted to agrarian economies, and the worlds we've left in their control would be opened up to immigration, with Terran getting first claim on land for the next 5 years. In addition, the Panin would be liable for a 20 trillion credit indemnity to compensate our military and the families of those they've wronged. The Panin ambassador's tail stiffened as if death had already claimed him. He understood the terms meant the end of his people as a galactic power. With no space travel, a crippled economy, and a population on the brink of starvation, the Panin were effectively prisoners on their own worlds. The few survivors would soon find themselves outnumbered by Terran settlers, their once proud empire reduced to a shadow of its former self. And just like that, the Terran Empire was born. "We submit," the Panin ambassador choked out, his spirit as broken as his body. "I know," Naga replied, turning to face the Confederation Assembly. "Now we are done with them. Perhaps now we can all live to enjoy the fruits of peace." The polite applause of the Confederation was drowned out by the deafening cheers of the Terran home world. But Ambassador Kalpi couldn't shake a nagging thought. Have we made a grave mistake? Over the next 5 years, Panin society imploded on the worlds where they still clung to life. The Panin regressed, devoid of the infrastructure and knowledge needed to survive in a post-industrial world. Civil war broke out among the survivors, who turned their weapons on each other until even those ran out, forcing them to scavenge like animals. Most didn't even know that peace had finally come, they only discovered it when the victorious humans landed, beginning the slow conversion of these worlds from barren, arid landscapes to ones more suited to Terran life. As the Terran moved in, some Panin begged for mercy, others fled in terror, but none could muster the will to resist. The Confederation members began to discuss the fate of the Panin, with many proposing to send observers and scientists to monitor their adaptation or lack thereof. "We would like to ensure they are not mistreated in the aftermath of the war," one member suggested to the Tang government. Grand Presider Jackson, leader of the newly established Terran Ascendancy, was quick to respond. "Of course, you are welcome to observe, but I expect most Panin will seek relocation to their home systems. Living under us would be intolerable for them, I think. However, you are free to observe as our colonies are established." As he spoke, a transmission arrived from the Keelan Empire, the closest and most trusted of humanity's allies. Grand Presider Jackson hesitated, knowing the question that was likely to come. "We can't keep this a secret for much longer," he thought. "It's better to be upfront." With a deep breath, he accepted the transmission, and the stern face of the Keelan leader filled the screen. "Grand Presider of the Terran Ascendancy, I trust you are well," the Great Speaker of the Keelan Empire began. "And you, Great Speaker of the Keelan Empire," Jackson replied, bowing slightly. Despite their differences, the two leaders shared a mutual respect that made their relationship smooth. The Keelan had been humanity's first allies, providing technology and support in the wake of the Panin's initial attack on Earth. "I am, thank you," the Great Speaker responded. "I'll get straight to the point. There is some concern about the rate at which your people are establishing colonies. You've placed over 20 outposts on as many worlds in just a few months. Can your planet sustain such rapid expansion?" Jackson smiled, unable to suppress his pride. "Our world has a long history of handling mass migrations, Great Speaker. We've developed efficient systems to manage such growth, and our current solutions are more than capable." The Great Speaker nodded thoughtfully. "Your species invests heavily in a few offspring over a long period, a practice that seems it should make expansion harder, not easier. Yet here you are, growing faster than any of us could have anticipated." Jackson inclined his head. "Our children mature quickly and are capable of great feats at a young age. We've built educational systems that allow them to contribute significantly before they even reach adulthood. Additionally, our medical advancements ensure a longer lifespan, which supports our expansion efforts." "Impressive," the Great Speaker acknowledged. "But what of the Panin? Are they being treated fairly as you resettle their worlds? Jackson's smile faded. They are being treated more fairly than they treated us, Great Speaker. We're giving them a chance to survive, something they never offered us when they attacked Earth. The Great Speaker tilted his head in what could be described as a sympathetic gesture. I see your point. But I hope your people show them the same mercy that we showed you when you first entered the galactic stage. We will, Great Speaker, Jackson promised. But understand, the Terran ascendancy cannot afford to be seen as weak, especially not now. Mercy, yes, but within reason. The conversation ended, leaving Jackson alone with his thoughts. He knew that the Panin's fate was sealed. The Terran ascendancy had risen, and with it, a new era had begun, one where humanity would no longer be prey but predator. Yet in his heart, he couldn't shake the worry that their newfound power might corrupt them, turning them into the very thing they had fought so hard to overcome.